Hey guys! Part 3 of What If Naruto was born in Uzumaki before it was destroyed. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 11, Collision. Nagato along with every AIM ninja inside the town watched in silent horror as the two ninjas rushed at each other. Words weren't enough to describe the sensation which every person felt as the thick dark smoke charged towards the approaching long spear from the sky. Just seconds before the two warriors ran into each other, the thick dark smoke transformed into Naruto quickly. Nagato shivered when he saw the crazy bloodlust in the dark red eyes of his best friend. He also saw the sheer terror the AIM ninja felt as well as they tried to accept that all of this was truly happening, and was not just a dream. "Power!" yelled Naruto. His voice sent shivers down everyone's spine. The level of anger, hatred and bloodlust in his friend's tone made Nagato take a step back as Naruto raised his right hand and pointed his first two fingers towards the approaching gigantic spear made up of paper weapons. Kurai Kaminari, Dark Lightning. Nagato continued to be surprised as violent bolts of dark purple-colored lightning started shooting from his friend's fingers. He knew Naruto could do ninjutsu, but this was the first time he had seen his friend combine that ninja art with his dark powers. And the effects were truly frightening. The AIM Kunoichi's dangerous spear collided violently with the lightning bolts, sending sparks all over the area. A few unfortunate AIM ninja also got hit and collapsed unconscious instantly. Panic spread on the battlefield as everyone dashed for cover. Even Nagato was not spared from the incoming attacks when he saw several deflected lightning bolts racing towards him. He reached into his pouch and threw 4 seals into different corners of the battlefield, his hands already going through a complicated series of hand seals. Fuin. A large rectangular blue-shaped barrier was created all over the battlefield, protecting him as well as the AIM ninja from the oncoming attacks. Nagato turned towards his stunned foes who were looking at him in confusion. "Stay still and don't leave the barrier, not if you want to die," warned Nagato. "Why should we listen to you?" asked the young AIM Chunin angrily, as Nagato simply pointed his fingers towards the maniacal laughing Naruto as he fiercely fought against Angel's relentless attack. "Fine, if you want to get slaughtered in the battle between those two, then be my guest," snapped Nagato. He smirked when the AIM ninjas flinched openly on seeing the fierce battle. Nagato could see they had understood they were no match for Naruto, and it only made his situation worse as the frustrated AIM ninjas turned their angry gazes on him. "Kill him," spat several of them. Nagato's eyebrows twitched, his urge to hit something skyrocketed as he spotted the stupid fools charging towards him. They were hell-bent on killing him, judging from the murderous gleam in their eyes. They didn't even understand in their anger that if he died then the barrier would collapse and their lives would be in danger. Not to mention Naruto would give them terrifying deaths if they even injured Nagato even a little. So for their sake, Nagato had to take these stupid AIM ninjas out quickly but without causing too much damage to them. After all, their mission was to intimidate, not to kill. So much for that, thought Nagato miserably, as he saw his best friend murderously attack the Angel of AIM. One thing was surely confirmed for Nagato today: never to piss of Naruto again. With a tired sigh, he brought his tanto forward and focused his attention in order to deal with the hordes of AIM ninjas that were about to jump on him. Naruto snarled on seeing the remaining AIM ninjas running to kill his best friend. He felt even more furious on seeing Nagato had erected a barrier to protect those dumb fools. "Your compassion would be the death of you someday, Nagato," thought Nagato furiously. The rage in his heart only served to make him more determined to end this battle. Whoever this girl was, she was good. To handle his onslaught of dark attacks was no small feat, but Nagato's life was at risk and he would not let his friend die. With great force, Naruto pushed more of his chakra into his attack. The lightning attack tore clean through the spear made up of paper weapons, and dashed madly to strike the slightly surprised Angel. Naruto couldn't help but smirk on seeing the victory in front of him. Apart from this girl, he doubted any of the small fries below him had a snowball's chance of standing up to him. However, the smirk vanished from his lips when Angel simply twisted herself a little, making the lightning attack pass from her side. Impossible, lightning travels faster than the speed of sound. It seems Aim's not as talentless as I imagined, thought Naruto begrudgingly. As a testament to the girl's credit, Naruto couldn't feel any emotion from her at all. Neither anger or fear or nervousness. She just stared at him with her stoic amber eyes, and it unnerved him a little. It was already taking a lot of his chakra to keep himself afloat in the air. Manipulating wind chakra constantly was not an easy task, and only his years of training in chakra control as well as average chakra reserves made this feat possible. On the other hand, this angel was simply using her paper transformation for flying. Not only did it consume less chakra, but it also granted her a little more agility and speed. She had the advantage. Guess I'll just have to overwhelm her with brute force, thought Naruto seriously, as he clasped his hands together. Katon Ninsho Masairu, fire release, burning missile. Angel of Aim watched patiently as her opponent brought forth a raging tornado of flames. But they were different from the usual fire attacks. Instead of being fiery orange in color, they were pitch black. Even the heat radiating from the flames smelled foul and corrosive. If she got hit by it, not only would they burn but make her skin crumble to ashes as well. She remained still, diverting every ounce of her attention to the approaching tornado of flames, which quickly transformed into a large missile headed straight for her head. She saw the boy grinning darkly on seeing her about to move. He was powerful, she had to give him that. But he had a great flaw. Angel was not surprised when the missile attack split into nearly 100 smaller missiles. The range of the attack increased, and despite the split of power, she knew any single attack from any missile could lead to her downfall. Instead of panicking, she closed her eyes. Just when the volley of dark missiles reached Angel, she transformed her entire body into uncountable paper shards and scattered in every direction. The attack collided with several paper shards and destroyed them completely. But the remaining ones started attacking Naruto from all sides, and the Uzumaki found himself completely surrounded in a tornado of paper shuriken, kunai that were ripping him apart. Naruto bit back a hiss as he received several more brutal cuts across his body. His blood spilled over as his skin was torn apart. He quickly clenched his fist tightly, bringing forth a defensive aura of dark chakra around his body in order to protect himself. And that was when he realized he made a bloody mistake. "It's over," said Mifune, his eyes closed as he turned around. A moment later, a monstrous blast ripped through half of the town, obliterating several small houses and shops, while sending debris in all 4 directions. Mifune started walking away, a slightly disappointed expression on his face as he witnessed the outcome of the fight. Angel could not be defeated. He had already told that. Now he had to go to Hanzo and request his leader to spare the remaining Uzumaki, since most of them were children and didn't deserve to die. He frowned when his fellow commander and friend hadn't moved from her spot at all. "Galatea?" asked Mifune. The blonde female remained still, her gaze fixed towards the now devastated town. Mifune walked back and arrived beside her. The samurai had to hide his shock when he saw Galatea gritting her teeth. "This one is quite strong," whispered Galatea, surprising her partner. "You mean," said Mifune in shock, unable to believe what he had just heard. Galatea's worried gaze was now fixed towards the devastated town, and her fears came true as another powerful wave of dark chakra was felt across the lands of Aim. This one being more fierce and very angry. "Conan." He remained still in his position, eyes fixed on the tattered remains of his shirt that lied in pieces across the wet ground. The surface beneath him was stained crimson as blood oozed from the large cut on his chest. His enemy had also lowered herself a little towards the ground. It was faint, but Naruto saw that even Angel seemed surprised by his survival. To think, she sneaked so many exploding tags into the massive paper storm. And to use my own chakra to trigger their ignition, ingenious, thought Naruto respectfully. He valued skill and cunning. This girl, despite being his enemy, was a worthy foe. Although her sneaky attack on him had caused an undesirable outcome. The barrier protecting the Aim ninja had shattered, leaving them completely exposed. Naruto could see his best friend fighting off against several squads of enemies. Many Aim troops were lying unconscious on the ground, several others were injured lightly and rendered useless in the fight. Nagato was holding his own. Two can play this game, thought Naruto viciously, as he started his hand seals. Angel prepared herself when the dangerous boy slammed his hand on the wet ground. Her eyes widened in horror when she saw him smirk. He had fooled her. Doton Doryuso, Earth Release, Earth Flows Spears. At the last second, Naruto changed the direction of his attack. He relished the silent, horrified look that appeared in the girl's eyes as hundreds of earthen spears rose from the ground, catching nearly every AIM ninja in their grasp. Their screams teared across the entire town as showers of blood erupted from their injured bodies. While not enough to kill, their wounds were surely painful. The few that managed to avoid his attack were shivering in horror on seeing their horribly injured comrades. Angel's eyes were slightly wide, unable to hide the anger and pain she felt on seeing the condition of her comrades. Furiously, she glared at the boy, and right then she knew she had made a terrible mistake. Dequirion Dark Illusions. She felt a formidable presence tear through her mental barriers as it latched itself to her anger, pain, and shock. Never in her entire life had she felt such a force. Despite her desperate attempts, it destroyed all her barriers and her world exploded in pain. The surviving AIM ninja couldn't believe their eyes when their undefeatable angel screamed. She collapsed on her knees. The pain flowing across her body was making every muscle of hers tremble. Despite knowing this was an illusion, a trick, she couldn't stop herself from screaming in agony. From the corner of her eye, she saw the boy staring at her mercilessly as he tightened the hand controlling the illusion. The pain continued to increase, and so did her screams. Her comrades tried to rescue her, but they failed as the boy's comrade made a quick sweep, knocking them out. Nagato arrived beside Naruto, a relieved look present in his eye as all of their enemies were defeated. "Go to the mountains," instructed Naruto, still holding his gaze on the struggling angel of AIM. "Okay. But don't you think you are better suited?" Nagato stopped speaking on seeing the murderous look in those red eyes. "You're going to be our clan leader. I've done my part in clearing your way, the rest is up to you," said Naruto coldly, making Nagato flinch. "What if they refuse?" asked Nagato hesitantly. As if to answer his question, Naruto clenched his fist tighter, making the angel scream even louder. Nagato had to look away as he saw tears starting to arrive in the girl's eyes from the unbearable pain, yet she refused to surrender. "Then they can forget about ever seeing any of these warriors alive," warned Naruto. "Understood," replied Nagato curtly, clearly not happy with the method being used, not that his best friend seemed to care. With a sigh, Nagato swiftly started dashing towards the mountains where they had felt Hanzo's presence. A part of him was nervous. Not only was his clan's future at stake, but the lives of the innocent AIM ninja was also in danger, not to mention his own. Nagato had no doubt that his best friend would not hesitate in fulfilling his threat of killing every one of those AIM ninjas, including Angel, if things went wrong or if Nagato was harmed. Naruto was a powerful censor, and he would know if something happened to his friend. Nagato could now see as to why Naruto had refused to be a clan leader. He was not suited for that task. His friend was not a diplomat but a soldier who knew how to fight. Still, despite his twisted ways, Nagato was grateful towards his friend. He had put in a lot of effort into making this mission work, and Nagato was going to give it his all to make sure everyone came out of this mess alive. He had no other choice. Mifune had kept a firm grip on Galatia's shoulders, preventing the distressed woman from charging right into the town in order to save her apprentice and their soldiers from that monstrous boy. It was still hard for him to accept that Angel had been defeated. He had underestimated this clan. He had also underestimated this mysterious boy, and now they were paying the price. "Let me go, Mifune," hissed Galatia, her silvery eyes burning with anger. "If I do so, then you will be violating Hanzo's orders." "I can't let you do that, no matter what," said Mifune sadly, earning a fierce glare in return. "But Conan." "I'm not heartless, Galatia. I know how grave the situation, but think about it tactfully. Our soldiers are now hostages and are at the enemy's mercy. If you recklessly charge, and you will risk not only Conan's life but that of all our soldiers. We have to give the enemy a chance to state their demands," explained Mifune patiently. Are we negotiating with people who attacked our nation? Asked Galatea in disbelief. You know that's not entirely true. I know how you feel, but trust Hanzo. He won't let any harm befall on his own soldiers, especially on Angel, reassured Mifune, and was relieved when Galatea closed her eyes in defeat. If anything happens to her, warned Galatea, then we'll make sure the enemy pays for their crimes. But it won't come to that, Galatea. Have faith, insisted Mifune. Galatea swore a few colorful words as she turned her attention back towards the lone approaching chakra signature that was slowly but surely nearing towards their location. Akino nervously sat on her summoned vulture. The Uzumaki children silently huddled around her, covering in fear. All of them had seen the devastating battle happening on the ground, but what had terrified them was the moment when that dark chakra had been unleashed. Akino had to go far as using a genjutsu to keep the terrified children from panicking, but even in the illusion state the children still felt that dark power a little, making them get close to her for comfort. Something which she readily offered. She was worried for her best friends. Every second felt like an eternity to her, as she was forced to stay here instead of being by their side. Yet this was the first time she had seen Naruto openly using his cursed power to such an extent. It was dangerous and powerful. However, she had felt the element that drove this power. She had felt his anger, his sadness, his pain, his hurt. Those emotions fueled that dark power, and Akino knew her friend's life was more than enough to make him feel those emotions naturally. She had also felt the bloodlust, and it scared her. Akino could only try to imagine what Nagato must be feeling as the boy was fighting beside Naruto. She was at least feeling all these things from a distance, and wished Kami to give both her friends the strength to survive and come back to her. She couldn't lost either of them, no matter how much annoying the boys could be at times. Please be okay, prayed Akino, as a lone tear fell from her silvery eyes. Conan silently watched as her enemy finished trapping her injured comrades into a sealed barrier that was being maintained by one of the Red-Head Boy's clones. He had already bound her in ninja wire and strapped chakra suppression seals all across her body. As difficult it was for her to accept the fact that she was defeated. Her fists clenched tightly as she tried to live with this humiliation. She had failed to protect her comrades, she had failed to defend her nation, she couldn't fulfill her oath as a ninja, couldn't fulfill her promise to him. She fixed her hardened gaze on that boy. There was a nasty, deep cut across his chest which made her silently smirk. At least, she hadn't allowed him an easy victory, and made him pay for the pain he had caused to her people. Conan saw how harshly he was panting, the sweat rolling off his forehead, the trembling of his hands. You can't control it, can you? Her question made the boy turn towards her. She couldn't help but be surprised by the indifferent look in his eyes. A few minutes ago he was craving for her blood, and now that the battle was over she was insignificant to him. It stirred something resentful in her chest, hurting her pride of being a capable kunoichi. You fought well, it's a shame you were my opponent, said Naruto sincerely. Conan blinked. She had truly not expected him to say anything, much less appreciate her skills. Maybe there was more to this mysterious boy apart from his dark powers and crazy attitude. Why did you attack my country? Asked Conan sternly. Again, that indifferent stare was her answer. What are your intentions? She continued. This time he gave her an amused smile. You do know that you are currently my prisoner, and not the other way around? Asked Naruto flatly. His face mask did an admirable job of hiding his grin as he saw the girl roll her eyes. She was not even a little bit afraid of him despite her fate lying in his hands. He didn't know why he said the next words. I won't kill you or your comrades, said Naruto, surprising both himself as well as the girl. You've done an admirable job so far, retorted Conan sarcastically, and internally grinned when he blushed slightly. I didn't want to, I don't have to explain anything to you, said Naruto in a flustered voice, only to receive an amused smile from the girl. Somehow, he found the gesture quite relaxing. What's your name, boy? Asked Conan, making his eyebrows twitch in annoyance. Shut up, old hag, replied Naruto, and grinned as the girl's eyebrows twitched equally as she gave him a murderous glare. Shaking his head, he tore his gaze away from the frustrating yet intriguing girl. He fixed his gaze over to the mountains and couldn't help but worry about Nagato. His friend was heading into a very dangerous situation, and Naruto felt guilty for being the one who put Nagato in that place. But it was necessary. Tonight, not only his fate but that of his remaining clan would be decided. He didn't even want to imagine the consequences if this mission failed, because unknown to his comrades this was his last option. He was running out of places to take them and keep them safe, not to mention secure a stable future for them to live in. His own plans for revolution depended on the success of this mission. And he had placed all his trust in his best friend. It felt strange to him for doing so, as he usually liked doing things on his own. This was the first time he had trusted another soul with such an important task. Naruto could only hope his best friend lived up to all their expectations. "I'm counting on you, Nagato," whispered Naruto, unable to hide the worry in his voice. A tired, distressed-looking boy managed to climb the last part of the mountain. He was panting harshly, his uniform torn in many places, blood dripped from the several minor wounds across his body. Exhaustion could be clearly seen in his eyes. It was fair to say that Nagato Uzumaki had seen better days. This crazy mission which he had undertaken on the orders of his crazy friend was turning out to the toughest assignment of his life. Starting from continuously traveling for several days without much rest, then fighting a gruesome battle against so many enemies, then running for several kilometers at top speed, followed by climbing a steep mountain and nearly losing his life. And now about to face a man feared across the entire ninja world. "I swear I'm gonna kill you, Naruto," mumbled Nagato. "Commander." Nagato's head snapped upwards to notice the sight of a middle-aged man and a beautiful woman standing before him. The female was wearing the uniform of a high-ranking AIM ninja, and had addressed the older-looking samurai-like man. This was it. He couldn't fail. His friend's future, his clan's future, all of it depended on him. He won't fail. With great effort, Nagato managed to stand back on his shaky legs. He was nearing towards chakra exhaustion and his vision was partially dark. He had barely managed to take a few steps forward towards the cautious ninjas when his tired legs betrayed him, making him collapse on his knees. He faintly heard the starting of footsteps towards his position, before a harsh voice sent chills down his spine. "Let him walk. The boy hasn't arrived before me yet." Nagato's bleary vision instantly cleared the moment his eyes caught the visage of Salamander Hanzo. The tall leader of AIM proudly stood before him, and Nagato realized why people feared him. The power he felt from Hanzo was immense and strong, and it made Nagato call forward all his will not to whimper beneath the harsh gaze of this man. His hands were about to start shaking, when he remembered Naruto's words of being proud for being an Uzumaki. Hanzo critically watched as the previously nervous boy shakily stood back on his feet and started limping towards him, using his tanto as a support. The determined look in the boy's eyes made Hanzo respect the boy's courage. "I have to walk. I won't cower. A proud Uzumaki never gives up, no matter what," thought Nagato passionately, as the faces of his Uzukage and his deceased clansmen who had offered a valiant fight till the end flashed before his eyes. It was their sacrifice that gave him strength as he arrived before Salamander Hanzo and stood before the man confidently. In this moment, Nagato didn't feel any fear. He knew what he had to do, and nobody would stop him. He watched Hanzo observing him with the same harsh gaze. "I'm pleased to finally meet you, Hanzo-sama," said Nagato respectfully. "What is your name, boy?" asked Hanzo, in the same strict voice, making Nagato look him straight in the eye. "Nagato Uzumaki." He heard the woman gasp in surprise at the mention of his clan's name. Even the samurai-like old man raised his eyebrows a little. However, Hanzo seemed as unaffected as he was before the revelation. "So what kind of threat have you come to make after attacking my nation, my soldiers?" asked Hanzo icily. It took everything in Nagato's heart not to faint right there, as he felt Hanzo leak a portion of his power along with that monstrous killing intent. Nagato's fists clenched as he steadied himself. He would not mess this up. "We don't offer any threat but offer the prospect of an alliance beneficial to both our sides," answered Nagato honestly, and saw Hanzo look at him critically. By holding my soldiers hostage against me? Tell me, boy, have you killed any of them? Asked Hanzo darkly. It is a necessary step to protect my people. We can't be too trusting in these troubled times, yet I give you my word that none of your warriors have been killed or will be killed no matter the outcome of this meeting. We deeply regret creating this situation, but it was unavoidable, answered Nagato frankly. He was surprised when Hanzo barely raised his eyebrows at those words and spoke. So what happens now? Asked Hanzo. If you wish peace and coexistence, then an alliance, and if not, said Nagato carefully, and saw the tall man narrow his gaze dangerously. If not? Drawled Hanzo dangerously. Nagato felt his vision start to darken, but he fought it and took a deep breath. Just a little more, just a little more. If not, then something else at the least. Because I didn't come here to offer a one-sided surrender, said Nagato truthfully. Hanzo remained silent even as his commanders watched the interaction with extreme attention. When the flames of war reach aim, there is a way to protect this great nation. I can tell you how to achieve it, if you listen to me with an open mind. Maybe then we can truly work together for a peaceful, new world. Nagato glanced at the three people surrounding him. He was already on his last legs and had done everything in his power to fulfill his mission. The decisive moment arrived as he turned to Hanzo and looked the stoic man right in the eye. What shall it be, Hanzo-sama? Chapter 12, Drifting Soul. Akino had only seen a handful times in her life when her two best friends were mad at each other. Usually, Nagato accepted whatever decisions or opinions Naruto had. And as long as Nagato didn't pester his friend on morals, Naruto was willing to bear with his friend's compassionate heart. But something had happened. Something big. She had never, ever seen Nagato glare as murderously at Naruto like he was doing right now. The three of them were currently waiting in Hanzo's throne room, waiting for AIM's leader and his top advisors to make an appearance. She didn't know what Nagato had said to the powerful man, but it had at least convinced Hanzo to give them a chance to present their case. It was a miracle. Akino couldn't help but be stunned by the fire and confidence she saw in Nagato right now. The submissive, naive boy she had known was slowly changing, and she had a guess as to who was behind this change. She had to admit, whatever Naruto was doing was turning Nagato into a fine man, and in time, a good leader. Naruto, for his part, was standing on the opposite side of the room. His back pressed to the pillar, the redhead's face was covered by his face mask. His hand safely tucked around his chest, the boy was simply uncaring regardless of the murderous looks Nagato was throwing his way. Akino knew that if not for these important negotiations just around the corner, Nagato would have yelled at Naruto like there was no tomorrow. Just that pissed off he seemed. She herself didn't like the way in which Naruto had completed this mission, by keeping his closest friends in the dark about whatever his real reasons or plan was. It hurt. But Naruto was simply stubborn and usually had his way no matter what. The only thing stopping them from blasting out at their friend was the fact that they still trusted him and knew he had their best interests in heart. It was just his ways that were questionable. You did good. It was the first time she had heard him speak. She saw Naruto directly looking at Nagato as he finished saying those words. Despite her best efforts, Akino couldn't hold back her surprised expression. It was rarely possible for anyone to live up to Naruto's standards except Naruto himself, and he barely praised anyone. So to see him honestly praising Nagato was quite a shock. And it seemed Nagato was stunned as well, judging from the boy's open mouth and trembling lips. Seeing his friend's expressions brought a small, sad smile on Naruto's face. I'm sorry for putting all of you through everything that has happened in the past few months. Rest assured, you won't have to bear it any longer, said Naruto quietly. Before either of his friends could question him on his statement, the doors to the chambers situated on the far side of the room opened. A group of people walked in, led by Salamander Hanzo himself. Nagato easily recognized the samurai commander and the beautiful blonde woman he had previously encountered in this group as well. Beside him, Akino stifled a gasp as she laid eyes on Hanzo for the first time. Naruto was wearing his expressionless mask even as Hanzo walked past him, but not without sparing a mysterious glance at the boy. He silently smirked when Angel or Conan was also among the group. He had to admit the girl had a strange name, and despite their rough first meeting he respected her skills. He simply didn't care about the other people in the group, specifically the old man and old woman dressed in civilian clothes who were shooting him murderous glares. He also spotted a young boy nearly their age with spiky orange hair in the group. Both of them exchanged curious glances at each other before breaking contact. At least not everyone thinks that I'm a freak, thought Naruto sarcastically. He could just imagine Akino's reaction if he said his thoughts out loud. But deep down he knew it was a fact. His powers were unnatural and twisted. They evoked something sinister in him that threatened to destroy everything he held dear. That was why he had to do this. His friends would never understand, but as long as they were safe and lived happily, he could go on living till his time came. To his credit, he actually smiled when Hanzo and his party settled in their seats, and the leader of AIM looked straight at him. I've already heard through Nagato's proposal of an alliance between AIM and the Uzumaki, or what's left of them anyway, commented Hanzo, and was surprised when Naruto simply nodded. You know what advantage the Uzumaki can provide you. Despite AIM's increased strength, your ninja are weak in comparison to those of the Great Five, said Naruto flatly. He heard Akino and Nagato gasp behind him, and received several dark looks from many of Hanzo's supporters, particularly the civilian old pair. Hanzo leaned forward and gazed intently at him. Naruto, for his part, continued his defiant stare. I can pardon Nagato and the rest of your clan. But not you, said Hanzo flatly, as Conan and the orange-haired boy looked right at Naruto. Before Nagato or Akino could come to their friend's defense, something happened. Understandable. I planned this mission. None of my people knew exactly what they were getting into. I assumed full responsibility, said Naruto truthfully, and raised his hand, stopping Nagato from interfering. A stern glance at Akino also stopped her from speaking. As he turned around, he saw Hanzo giving him a surprised smile. I see, so you're the leader hiding in the shadow of Nagato? Asked Hanzo curiously, but the boy shook his head. I'm a soldier, nothing more. Nagato speaks for all of us, but each of us have a freedom to voice their opinions. That is just how we Uzumaki are, said Naruto boldly. You know I can actually kill all of you? Asked Hanzo darkly, making Mifune go stiff. Galatea and Conan looked uncomfortable. The orange-haired boy wanted to protest, while the civilian old pair seemed to agree with this move. Hanzo saw the Uzumaki boy start walking towards him. Galatea stepped forward but was stopped by Hanzo. He watched the boy climb the stairs and reach the throne on which Hanzo was seated. Beside him, his supporters were ready to jump to his defense, but Hanzo's eyes were fixed on this boy alone. The cold glare landing on Hanzo was enough to send shivers down the spines of his supporters. Before we perish, we will burn AIM to the ground. I will personally slaughter as many of your people as I can, cripple your nation just before the greatest war of our world. You will destroy yourself and all your dreams. To destroy the Uzumaki will be the end of you. I swear it, promised Naruto murderously, his dark chakra beginning to spike dangerously, making the people around him tremble. Naruto didn't flinch even as every ninja around him placed their weapons around his entire body, ready to strike in a flash. Your clan is full of innocent children. If my people die, so will yours, said Hanzo darkly, and saw the boy's eyes soften just for a second before the defiance crept back in his eyes. I've already seen the worst of this world. Your empty threats do not scare me, Salamander Hanzo, said Naruto defiantly. Neither Nagato or Akino knew what was going on since Naruto's voice was barely above a whisper and their friend was standing far away from them. But judging from the weapons pointed at him and tense atmosphere, they could only imagine what havoc Naruto could be causing. It was these expectations that shocked them when Hanzo leaned back in his chair and smirked. I will give every Uzumaki a place in this nation. They all shall be given citizenship, provided they swear loyalty to AIM and its leaders, said Hanzo seriously, loud enough for the remaining two Uzumaki in the room to hear. Naruto only shared a brief look with his friends before turning back to Hanzo, a distrustful expression appearing in his blue eyes. Other villages slaughtered my people because they were different, because of our knowledge. I swear if you even touch my people. Naruto was surprised when Hanzo got back on his feet. making his supporters step back to create space. The leader of AIM looked directly into the young boy's eyes, and the message was clear in those orbs. I am not those men. I am Hanzo, Salamander Hanzo. Naruto's relentless gaze stared deep into Hanzo's eyes. He didn't know why, but his gaze went towards Conan, who also surprisingly gave a small nod. He saw how equally surprised the girl was with her own actions. He saw Mifune looking at him neutrally. Galatea seemed skeptical but didn't say anything. The strange orange-haired boy gave a small smile, and the civilians were glaring at him even more hatefully. He looked at his friends again. Nagato gave a nod while Akino gave him a hopeful smile. He could see the emerging happiness in their gazes, the hope in their eyes. Then, under these terms, the Uzumaki clan pledged themselves to AIM. We shall abide by the laws of these lands, have faith in the government, accept the people of AIM as countrymen, and fight to protect this nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic, promised Naruto. Hanzo gave a firm nod as his approval of the oath undertaken. And what about you? Asked Hanzo, taking Naruto by surprise as he raised his eyebrows at the man. What about me? Questioned Naruto. Conan felt her gaze intently fixed on the boy before her. It was hard to explain, but there was something about him that was different. Maybe it were his powers or his defiance to stand up to Salamander Hanzo so openly. It was fair to say that she had never seen someone like Naruto Uzumaki. Although, his name was downright annoying and a joke. Who the hell named their kid after fish cake? Your clan, your friends took the oath. Not you, said Hanzo seriously, making the boy smirk. While I appreciate the offer, I'll pass. Hanzo saw the shocked looks on the faces of the boy's friends, the anger in his own ninja's eyes for such an open rejection, yet Hanzo couldn't help but be surprised. Beside him, Mifune was shocked on seeing Hanzo smile faintly for the first time in a decade as he stared in the boy's eyes. The others didn't understand, but Mifune could feel what Hanzo felt as he watched this boy standing before him. Your qualities will be known to this world for a long time, Uzumaki Naruto. Conan couldn't help but gasp at the unexpected praise showered on this boy. What made this act even more bizarre was the fact that Hanzo rarely praised anyone, even her. And it made her heart clench a little. Just who was this Naruto Uzumaki that even Hanzo couldn't resist to praise? On the other side, Nagato and Akino were shocked by what happened next. Naruto bowed deeply before Hanzo, much to everyone's surprise. The boy didn't say any words to convey his request, but Hanzo understood regardless and gave him a confident nod. Naruto's eyes then shifted towards Conan, to see her staring at him. He could see so many emotions floating through her eyes, and surprised her when he gave her a nod as well. Without waiting for her response, he cast neutral looks towards the remaining AIM people before starting his journey towards the doors. It was then that he saw the reaction of his friends. And despite being prepared for this, his heart clenched at the sight. Nagato's anger had vanished, and he was looking at his friend with a new sense of panic. Naruto saw his friend already trying to think of various ways or reasons for making him stay. But it was Akino that made him feel sad, and maybe even guilty. He couldn't even look in her eyes and had to tear his gaze away or risk showing her his own emerging tears. He didn't want this, but this was the only way. Hanzo must have sensed his pain and reluctance, as the leader of AIM called his friends, diverting their attention away from him. It gave him the needed time to reach the exit and go away. He had to go now. Naruto silently opened the medium-sized door in front of him, making a silent hissing sound as the metal parted to allow him passage. But instead of going inside the room, he remained at the doorstep. His eyes fixed on the form of the peaceful Uzumaki children sleeping soundly in their beds. The sight made his heart flutter. Seeing them safe, comfortable made everything he had undergone in these past months worth it. Yet he couldn't help but feel guilty. Almost every child in this room had lost their parents, friends, or relatives because he failed in his task. He had failed in the task his Uzukage had so confidently assigned to him. He could still remember the faces of all his deceased clan members as they lay murdered in the lands of Fire Nation. Their terrified gazes always kept him awake at nights. He took a hesitant step forward, if only to say goodbye. But then he remembered who he was, and stopped himself. Unlike the compassionate Nagato or the friendly and cheerful Akino, he was the scary older brother. He had seen the wary and sometimes even terrified stares these children sent his ways. He understood their reasons. He really did, but deep down it hurt. And the worst part was that he knew they were right. Being near him could only bring them pain, suffering and dangers which they weren't yet prepared for. And neither had he himself made any great efforts to get to know these children. For the simple reason of not knowing how, or having the time to do so despite his heart wanting it. A wistful smile came on his lips as he imagined the future his two friends would have with these children, and it made everything worth it. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath. With one final glance towards the future of his clan, he smiled and slowly disappeared into the dark corridors with a small thought in his mind. All of you are the light of our clan, while I am nothing but darkness. I wonder, will you ever remember me? It was rare for Hanzo to take a break in the middle of important negotiations. He always believed in getting the job done, no matter what. Yet there was one person who could make him break that rule. Watching the confident girl standing before him satisfied him immensely. It was still hard to accept that a few years ago this simple girl was just another one of the countless war orphans of AIM. And now years later, Conan was not only one of the strongest ninjas of this nation but was also his heir. In the path of fulfilling his dream of a peaceful world, Hanzo had long since given up the desire of having his own family someday. Not that he himself wanted it that much, since his dreams for change were far more important. Yet meeting this girl changed his life. There was something different in her that attracted Hanzo's attention. She had a fire in her that Hanzo wanted in AIM's next leader. "May I ask why you brought me here?" asked Hanzo, letting go of his strict nature for a change. His voice actually sounding much normal and welcoming, for he knew Conan never did anything without good reason and he had faith in her. "First, I want to apologize for," began Conan, but was stopped when Hanzo raised his hand. "There is no shame in losing to someone powerful than you. It would have been a real defeat had you not given it your all. Whatever mistake you made in battle will make you learn your shortcomings and help you grow as a shinobi. Always remember, Conan, there is no greater teacher for a person in this world than the person himself," explained Hanzo patiently, as the blue-haired girl lowered her gaze. "I know, but I promised," said Conan silently, and a moment later she felt a strong hand being placed on her shoulder. "Let me be the judge of whether you broke our promise or not. Understood?" asked Hanzo patiently, yet his strong tone indicated that the discussion was over. Conan only nodded hesitantly in return. "Is that all you wanted to discuss? Because if it is, then I should get back to the negotiations. Nagato and Akino are already stressed as it is with their comrade leaving. If not for my insistence to formulate our alliance officially, they would have long since went to do other things. But I need to solidify this treaty, now more than ever," emphasized Hanzo, earning a nod from her. "That's actually what I wanted to talk about. There is a way we can secure AIM's future and pacify those two. If this idea of mine works, then you may actually earn the full loyalty of the Uzumaki without the need of an oath," suggested Conan, making Hanzo smirk as he raised his eyebrows. "What do you have in mind?" Conan couldn't help but smirk. She would have her little payback. Nagato and Akino were frantically pacing across the long chambers of Salamander Hanzo. It had been nearly half an hour since their best friend had walked out of this room, walked out of their lives without so much as a backward glance. Each of them had heard Naruto express his opinion that he would never serve any other flag other than Yuzu. Back then they had believed that with time Naruto would have a change of heart, but they should have known how stubborn that boy was. "I can't believe he would do this to us," said Akino devastatedly. Nagato was thankful that Hanzo's supporters had also left the room when their leader had walked out to take a break, or else it would have been quite difficult to negotiate such an important alliance when both of them were in such distressed states. "What the hell is the idiot even going to do? Does he even have a plan? Where will he go? He keeps on blabbering about his grand plan, but he's so reckless, rash." She felt strong arms grab her shoulders, and a moment later she felt herself being embraced comfortingly. Akino slumped in his arms, unable to control her tears as Nagato comforted her. "I can't lose him, Nagato," whispered Akino, Her voice trembled so much that it made his heart ache for the pain she was in right now. "I won't let that happen, Akino," said Nagato fiercely. He broke the hug just a little, and cupped both of her cheeks in his hands, looking the distressed girl straight in the eye. Akino's tears stopped when she saw the determination in his eyes. "As long as I live, you won't lose him. No matter what, I promise," pledged Nagato. "Nagato." He didn't waver and gently caressed her cheek, making her calm down a little as he wiped her tears away. "You must remember, Akino. He carries a lot of burden on his shoulders. His life wasn't normal like ours. I'm not making excuses for his behavior because I'm just as pissed off as you on his reckless antics, but all I'm trying to say is that I understand why he does these things," said Nagato sadly. "I don't know how you do it, Nagato. I truly care about him. Hell, never mind. He drives me insane. How can you even understand him and not be pissed off at him for doing this to us?" asked Akino furiously, her hot temper flaring right up, and with good reason after the decision Naruto had made without even consulting them. In response, Nagato gave her a serene smile. "Because he's my best friend." That stopped her. Akino stared at her friend's smiling form. The answer was so simple, yet she knew only a person like Nagato could say something like that and actually mean it with all his heart. Just that kind of a person he was, and it was Nagato's patience and understanding that had kept their team together over these harsh years. As Akino was lost in her own thoughts, Nagato didn't miss her near slip-up about her hidden feelings. It was not that he had not known about this fact, but it was the first time he had actually seen Akino nearly spill her own feelings about a certain rebel Uzumaki. He honestly didn't know what to think about it. All he knew was that he wanted the best for both his friends, and it was up to them to solve this issue. And unless they specifically asked for his help or advice in this matter, he was going to step aside and let the two of them handle it. And seeing that Akino had calmed down now, he decided to explain some things to her in the hopes that maybe she wouldn't drive Naruto insane in her anger when he came back. "Akino, I think Naruto knows what he wants but doesn't know the exact way through which he can achieve it. Unlike us, he hasn't experienced a normal childhood and has stayed isolated for most of his life. He simply doesn't know how to behave around people, or even live with them. And that's why he pushes everyone away," said Nagato patiently. "Why?" asked Akino in painful voice. "For fear of being rejected, for being abandoned again. What his parents did to him changed him." Akino bristled. Her dormant anger flared up again, both at Naruto and his parents. No matter what reason, they shouldn't have abandoned their son like this. It was worse than the fate of an orphan, but at the same time she could not be as understanding as Nagato. Yes, Naruto's life was harsh and cruel, but it was not enough reason for his unwillingness to adapt. Yes, he was bad at relationships. Then he had to work hard to build good ones. Staying away, pushing people away was easy and convenient, and Naruto would do just that to suit himself. Nagato had a soft corner for his best friend, always had and always will. So, it was up to her to make Naruto see his shortcomings. And it would start with both her and Nagato bringing him back. It wasn't going to be easy, and Naruto was definitely not going to like this. But they wouldn't give him a choice, she wouldn't give him a choice. "You're done, Naruto Uzumaki," fumed Akino. As if even the heavens supported her desire, the door to the chamber opened and Hanzo walked back in alongside that smirking girl. Akino didn't know why, she felt an immense irritation build inside of her on seeing this girl. She knew Conan hadn't wronged her in any way, but she couldn't explain this jealousy? And judging from the cocky smirk on Conan's lips, Akino was sure that she was up to no good. What the hell is she up to? Chapter 13, Curse Loyalty. The rains of aim were said to be relentless and unending. He had never believed this fact, fully thinking it was impossible for any place to forever be haunted by rain. But now, as he sat in the middle of one of Aim's wastelands being continuously soaked in rainfall, made him realize that the myth was true, and he had been wrong. It went to show there were so many things in this world he didn't know the truth about. He bit back the cold shiver his body threatened to let escape in such a frosty and harsh atmosphere. It had been 2 days since he left his friends and clan in Aim's capital. To be honest, Naruto didn't know what to truly feel about his decision. On one hand, he knew tactically his decision was right since he could never let himself become Aim's soldier. He simply couldn't betray the oath he had made to Yuzu and was hell-bent on following it till his last breath. Even if that had not been a problem, he had other dreams to fulfill now that his clan was safe. And he couldn't accomplish them if he was a registered ninja of Aim, since any trouble he created would spell misfortune for this small nation and his own clan. And he couldn't let that happen. No matter what. Even so, a small part of him felt guilty for leaving his friends behind. He had never even waited to say a final goodbye. They were his home, the only family he had in this world. And as he sat alone in this wasteland, he couldn't blink back the tears that came in his eyes. He missed the friendly banter he had with Akino, the peaceful times with Nagato. He missed it all so much. The rain falling down on him made his tears invisible as he accepted the things he had lost in his life. Many due to the actions of others and a few due to his own decisions. He had already sent a message to Kisame asking the man for the latest update on the brewing war. And maybe in a day or two he would receive a reply from the Kiri ninja. Naruto desperately wished it came sooner, as that would give him purpose. A new mission which will help him fulfill his desire for a peaceful world. If maybe someday he achieved his dream, then not only his friends but millions of innocent people could live happy lives. So that the tragedy of Uzumaki clan could not be repeated ever again. His eyes hardened as he thought about all those forces that were wreaking havoc across the world. The 5 great villages, or more specifically the military governments and the Hokages. The corrupted daimyos, the out-of-control Black Ops forces like the ones he had seen in Konoha, crazy monsters like Orochimaru. The list was endless. He felt the anger build inside of him as he thought about the atrocities he had witnessed in the past few months. The few plants around him withered away as his chakra flared dangerously. He would make them pay, all of them. His eyes widened momentarily as he felt several foul presences far away. The strange thing was that these energy imprints were foul and corrupted. He could feel the anger, the bloodlust, the madness inside these group of humans. Stunned, he increased his sensory range and his eyes widened as he felt the presence of nearly 100 civilians. A small village, perhaps, said Naruto out loud. He knew what was going to happen, he could feel it. The war had already started, and now it had reached Aim. There was not just the ninja villages that were dangerous, but there were several other groups and organizations that were much worse. He took a step forward but came to halt quickly. This wasn't his job, the Aim ninja would know about this attack soon enough, and it was their job to protect their people. He was already near the borders, and just a day or 2 journeys would get him out of this country. But if he did what his heart was urging him to do, it would only cause more problems for him. Naruto cursed out loud at this situation. He had no loyalty towards Aim's citizens, he was not their soldier, not their protector. Yet he couldn't help but relive the night of his own clan's massacre. The helpless screams of his own people, their despair and panic as they were slaughtered. They didn't deserve that, and with a heavy heart he knew neither did Aim's civilians. They were also humans. Let your darkness be your greatest strength rather than your worst enemy. He remembered his Yuzuki's words to him during his training. Naruto hadn't understood the man back then, but now he knew what his leader wanted. And if there was one thing he did obediently was follow his Yuzuki's wish. Katsuro-sama would not have walked away when innocent lives were in danger. And as his disciple, either would Naruto. Terrified screams rang across the small village of Han. Named in the respect of their glorious leader, Hanzo, this village was just another one of the impoverished small villages of Aim where poverty, sickness, and unemployment existed openly. All in all, it had not a single special thing about it that made it worthy enough for such a vicious attack. Now, Han's grounds were stained with the crimson blood of several of its residents. The screams of terrified women and children could be heard everywhere, along with the moans of the dying men who were the first to be targeted and were being slaughtered one by one. Another sound was also heard across the village. Laughter. Cruel, vicious laughs escaped from the lips of the attackers. Dressed in dark black robes, their faces covered by skull masks. They were the epitome of monsters for the helpless people of Han. A strange serpent-like figure made up of green energy was floating over the village, making the civilians cower in horror. "Take that, you bitch! Oh, I'm gonna enjoy this. This is the ultimate fun!" Naruto stared at these disgusting creatures from afar. The animals were slaughtering everyone and everything that came in their way, be it man, woman, or child. The sight of several little children lying butchered on the wet ground made his blood boil. The sight hit close to his heart, as it reminded him of the slaughter of his own people. Their screams. And that was when his entire chakra flared murderously. "I'm gonna kill all of you," roared Naruto. Dark chakra oozed from his body at alarming levels, the foul energy being released from his body spread in all directions. The slaughter stopped as the vicious attackers watched in horror as their powerful serpent-like symbol in the sky was swallowed whole by a dark demonic skull. The ground shook violently as something landed right in the center of the village, sending dust and debris sailing everywhere. The attackers had lost all interest in the civilians, and had quickly surrounded the person standing in the midst of this dust. They all took a step back when they saw his eyes. Pure, red demonic eyes. "Who is this guy?" asked one of the skull-masked men. "Reinforcements?" suggested another. "Aim's ninjas are weak as fuck. Let's show these weaklings the true power of our lord," howled the young gray-haired man. He brought forward his monstrous scythe and pointed it at the boy. His comrades also brought forward their long scythes stained with blood and grinned menacingly. "So you believe in Kami?" asked the boy, his voice barely a whisper. "Hell yeah? Tell you what, brat, just die and be honored for becoming Jashin-sama's sacrifice," screeched the young gray-haired man again, his comrades howling in agreement. They all took a step back when the red-eyed boy gave them a maniacal smile. "Then let me show you the power of Kami." Before any of them could retort back at the brat, dark tendrils of chakra shot forward, wrapping their entire group in its binds. Instead of being scared, all the men stared at the boy incredulously and laughed. "We can't be killed by humans," yelled one of them proudly. "We're immortal." "I wouldn't be so sure about that," warned the boy. The tendrils danced wildly in the air, much to the surprise of the cowering civilians as they watched their attackers being slammed repeatedly against each other. Their painful screams brought some relief to the grief-struck people of Han, and they couldn't help but stare at this boy with newfound devotion and awe. The masked men who were butchering others were being butchered themselves, which made the boy smile darkly. "Kill or be killed, that's the law of this world," said the boy. He stared at the civilians who were looking back at him devotedly, which only made him scowl. "It's better to hurt others before they hurt you. Don't forget that," advised Naruto harshly, receiving fearful nods in return. He saw the group of men trying to slice apart the dark tendrils holding them captive with their scythes, but their weapons simply passed through the chakra without granting them their freedom. The sight only made the young boy scowl. "I'm not the one who's wrong. What's wrong is this fucked up world," cursed Naruto. His chakra flared violently, and he threw the entire group of attackers hundreds of meters away, making them land straight outside the village. He smirked on hearing their painful screams, and rushed towards them. His heart thumped when he saw their terrified gazes as he approached towards them. "You bastard!" Naruto laughed when a few of them charged towards him, eyes blazing with pure anger and murder blazing through their hearts. If only the fools knew. He simply pointed his finger towards them, and the very next second all of them stopped abruptly. Their comrades couldn't help but be more horrified when their attacking comrades fell to their knees and started screaming painfully. Naruto saw the foul-mouthed gray-haired young man staring at him with fear flashing through his eyes. "I'm sorry, I forgot your name?" Before the man could save himself, dark chakra tendrils erupted from the ground beneath him, impaling him all over the body. One of the tendrils hovered around him menacingly before piercing one of his eyes, making him scream, while the boy laughed. "What's your name?" asked Naruto curiously. "H. Haiden. Before I squash all of you like the vermin you are, tell me who sent you here?" asked Naruto sternly, his demonic red eyes making the group of men flinch. "We are followers of Jashin-sama. We follow nobody," But our God kill, in his name, said Haydn painfully, as the boy made the tendrils impaling his body churn mercilessly. Naruto sighed. Foolish humans. Still, he couldn't help but be intrigued by the power of these men. All of them were sporting several fatal injuries all across their bodies, wounds that should have killed them long ago. Just the amount of blood they had lost should have been enough to take their lives, but they were still alive. He looked Haydn right in the eye and invaded the man's mind. Haydn howled in agony as the boy mercilessly tore through his mind, learning everything there was to know about him, their cult, their religion, their powers, and their god. Haydn couldn't help but be horrified by the power of this boy. He was a true monster. A true god. After a few minutes, Naruto broke the mental link with a strange look in his eyes. He saw the men cowering before him, and couldn't help but acknowledge that they were immortal to a certain extent. They could be killed, his dark chakra could destroy their bodies from the inside. But he couldn't help but feel a connection to the power they possessed. It was dark, twisted, and violent, just like his own power. While these Jashinists were nothing more than barbarians, their powers were not something he could simply toss aside in these times. Please, spare us, we won't attack anymore, pleaded Haydn, and the request was repeated by several of his cowering comrades. And why would I do that? Asked Naruto with a smirk. Haydn felt a cold chill run down his spine as he saw the ruthless gaze of the boy. He was really going to kill all of them, brutally. His eyes met the terrified gazes of his own comrades. They had seen it all. This was it, but Haydn couldn't help but feel something else. This boy was more powerful than his entire group, defeated them like little bugs despite the powers granted to them by Jashin-sama. Could he be Jashin? The demonic eyes, the bloodlust, the cruelty, the twisted laugh. Yes, he could be Jashin. He couldn't believe it. Their lord was standing before them, and none of them hadn't even realized it. Assholes. Naruto curiously watched as Haydn glanced at him for a moment before turning to face the terrified gazes of his cult. Naruto saw the look in Haydn's eyes before he started talking in the ancient language of their cult. Unknown to these men, Naruto had already learned the basics and could understand what Haydn was trying to say. Still, he was annoyed by the man's deceptive nature. He clenched his fists as the dark chakra tendrils around Haydn's body sliced off the man's arms completely. Haydn screamed. You basta! Haydn stopped himself from cursing the boy, and just in time as the young boy gave him an ice-cold glare. You say something? Asked Naruto cruelly. Haydn bitterly shook his head. I don't like people who avoid me in any way. You understand me? Asked Naruto threateningly, making Haydn whimper. Yes, my lord. The Jashinists gasped in shock on seeing one of their own utter such blasphemy. Their furious looks landed on their comrade, who looked right back at them. He's a god, you fools. Can't you feel his power? It's just like Jashin-sama. Have you forgotten our scriptures? Yelled Haydn irritatedly. Naruto merely raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the event happening in front of him. He couldn't help but feel immense satisfaction for the havoc he was causing, and as the cult members looked in the boy's eyes, they saw the same madness, the same bloodlust, the anger only 1,000 times more. Their eyes widened as Haydn's words sinked in. The dark chakra. Their own powers were a result of the dark arts taught to their cult by the great Jashin. And here was this boy, a complete master of the dark arts, who had squashed all of them like little bugs. They felt his aura, his power. It was unending. Ready to die? Asked Naruto finally, snapping the entire cult out of their shock. What? No! Don't kill us, said Haydn in a panicked voice. Why? Asked Naruto in a bored voice. We will fight for you, die for you, do anything for you, said Haydn desperately, and Naruto saw the same reason prevailing in the eyes of the remaining cult members. Why? He asked again, and this time he couldn't help but be disgusted by the fanatic look in Haydn's eyes. Because you're Jashin-sama reincarnated in the flesh. I never thought I would see this day, to witness your dark powers. Let us serve you, my lord, begged Haydn. Naruto raised his hand, making the entire cult hold their breath in fear. He had to use every ounce of his willpower for not slaughtering these vermins right here. They were monsters in human forms. He had seen the crimes they had committed, he had felt their evil desires. They were no longer human. But at the same time, he could see their usefulness. They were nothing more than cannon fodder to him, mere pawns but useful regardless. The cult members felt their masks break instantly as all of them were forced on their knees. They felt a strange euphoria as the dark tendrils vanished and the twisted energy engulfed their bodies. The power they felt was ecstatic. Naruto stepped forward and was not surprised when all of them bowed their heads to the ground. He performed several sets of complicated hand seals before pointing his hands towards the group of people. All of them hissed in pain when a small portion of the dark energy submerged inside their bodies. A large skull face tattoo emerged on their right arm, its eyes glowing demonically red for a moment before dying down. When they stared at Naruto, he saw the result of the little ritual he had performed. At least one eye of every cult member was now dark red, just like Naruto's. Hayden was in the process of regenerating his lost eye, and to his surprise the lost organ was replaced almost instantly. He stared at his lord in awe and bowed deeply before. "Master, thank you for giving us your power," said Hayden madly, the others following him example. Naruto kept his expressions blank as he stared at these men. He had shared a part of his chakra with them, making their weak bodies a little stronger. It didn't increase their combat skills but made them a little strong enough to survive longer. But the most important thing was that each of them was now fanatically loyal to him. His will was their will. He had made sure of this fact by making himself appear as the avatar of Jashin in the minds of these crazy fighters. "Rise," commanded Naruto. He felt immense satisfaction when his new pawns obeyed his command without hesitation. Each of them would still pay for their crimes, but after serving their usefulness to his cause. At least this way, these wretched humans would be using their twisted powers for a good cause. "From today, you shall follow me. Together we shall strike this twisted world," declared Naruto. "Yes, master," replied all of them gleefully. "Obey me and I promise to reward you great battles and bloodshed. Fight for me, kill for me, do anything I say and you shall realize the reason for your existence," proclaimed Naruto. "We will do all you ask, master," said Hayden fanatically. He had seen it with his own eyes. This boy was an avatar of Jashin and the vision he had shown them was enough to make all the cultists dance with joy. Oh, the havoc they would be causing. He was brought out of his crazy thoughts when Naruto gave all of them a dark glare. "Loyalty will be rewarded. Treachery will only bring you a torturous death," promised Naruto, and raised his hand. All the men fell on their knees screaming in pain as the skull mark on their arms burned their skin, their bodies. Hayden stared at his master, realizing their leader had marked them all with his seal. It was a few ninjutsu none of them had ever seen before and only went to show how powerful their leader was. "This mark is my connection to each of you. I'll issue my orders to all of you through them," instructed Naruto. "Yes, master. We understand," replied Hayden gratefully, as their leader stopped the agonizing pain coursing through their bodies due to the mark. Naruto stared hard at each of them, looking right into their souls through their eyes. Only when he was sure of their unwavering loyalty did he step back and spoke in a loud voice. "Let our holy crusade begin," commanded Naruto. He couldn't help but smirk when his new followers howled eagerly. The feeling of loss vanished from his heart, as he now had more resources to accomplish his vision, starting from now. "Divide yourself in groups of 10, instructed Naruto. The men obeyed without question and divided themselves into 4 columns of 10 men each. Naruto walked amongst them, inspecting all of them. "Tell me your names." The men were overjoyed when their master asked for their names. Their eager smiles only made Naruto smile at their foolishness. Goro, Haru, Isamu, Jun, Ken, Ko, Fumio, Keiji. It took a few minutes, but he patiently listened as the men revealed their names to him. He did his best to hide his disinterest as he finished the mundane activity. These people were nothing but pawns to him, yet it was important for him to know them if he wanted to use them. "Good. Jun, lead Team 1. Your mission is to set up bases for our army. Find remote places for this task. I give you 3 months. Isamu, lead Team 2. Your mission is to gather armor, weapons and arsenal for my followers. I don't care how you get them, you have 2 months. Ko, lead Team 3. Your mission is to get me the money for our crusade. You will regularly report back to me with the progress you've made. And Haiden, lead Team 4. Your mission is to gather information over the 5 great villages. You are free to kill any of their shinobi who get in your way and collect their bounties. Send them to Ko afterwards. Understood? Asked Naruto seriously. Yes, master. I'll make many sacrifices in your glory, promised Haiden, as a chuckle escaped from his lips. Naruto maintained his cold, disinterested gaze at all of them. Failure will not be tolerated. Except for Haiden and his team, the rest of you are to carry out your missions without attracting any attention. If I find that you have disobeyed me in any manner, then I'll make your fate worse than death, promised Naruto, making all of them shiver a little in fear. Yes, master, replied all of them in unison. He waved his hand in a dismissing manner. Go and carry out my will across this world. Naruto couldn't help the sinister smile from appearing on his lips as his fanatical pawns dispersed quickly to carry out his orders. First Kisame, now these men. Slowly but surely he was moving forward to bring forth the revolution of his dreams. Despite his dark powers being the curse of his life, he couldn't help but feel that one day they would be the reason for a change in this world. He would be patient, and make his moves slowly. He would destroy his chosen enemies in a carefully laid trap like a serpent, and strike them in a flash. With those thoughts in mind, he started his journey back towards the village of Han. There could still be civilians trapped beneath debris. Children may be injured, and he couldn't leave them in such a state. He would help them a little long enough for them to survive so that the AIM ninja didn't arrive to a village half full of bodies. And then he would leave. Alas, his wish was not to be fulfilled as he stopped dead in his tracks. His demonic red eyes reverted back to their natural blue orbs. His dark chakra vanished as he came to a halt. His eyes widened in shock. For standing at the entrance of the village were none other than Nagato and Akino, along with Conan. Chapter 14, The Proposal. Naruto blinked. His shocked expression was easily visible to his best friends and Conan as they all stared at him with varied expressions in their eyes. Conan looked annoyed to say the least, Nagato was disappointed, and Akino was. He only had a few precious seconds to bring forward his tanto as Akino pounced on him, her eyes screaming bloody murder. You bastard! Yelled Akino, making her own tanto clash with the surprised boy. Naruto saw sparks fly as their weapons made contact. What shocked him more was that Nagato made not a single move to stop their enraged female friend, while Conan was watching the duel with a bemused smile on her face. The bitch was enjoying his misery. He effectively blocked Akino's non-lethal strikes as the Uzumaki girl yelled a wide variety of obscenities at him. Granted that he did deserve all of them for leaving without even saying goodbye, and silently accepted her anger because this time he had crossed a line. Besides, his Uzukage had warned him not to provoke the females of his clan when they were extremely furious. His momentary distraction costed him as she disarmed him with a quick strike, his tanto sliding out of his grip and rolling away from him. He saw her flinch as her tanto was now poking his chest, having already teared through his shirt. She instantly dropped the weapon, saving his skin from being sliced apart from the sharp tanto. Still, the unending anger in her eyes made him flinch and lower his gaze. He had nothing to say. He prepared himself for the inevitable punch or slap that would hit him any second. He simply remained still, ready to face the punishment for causing her pain. You reckless idiot! That was all he heard before someone fiercely hugged him, their soft arms wrapping themselves around his back and bringing him closer to their own soft body. His eyes snapped open when he smelled her scent and realized she was hugging him. If that was not enough, the sound of her soft sobs broke his heart. She was crying for someone like him. Why? He looked at Nagato and saw his friend exhale a sigh while shaking his head tiredly, and Conan was smiling at him. Not a mocking smile, but a genuine one. The sight of that smile combined with Akino's sobs and Nagato's smirk made him tear up. He had missed them. Missed them so much. If only for a few moments, he wanted time to stop. To be free from his burdens, to be free from his grand dream, to be from free his pain and just live alongside his friends. Akino smiled tearfully when Naruto wrapped his own arms around her waist, pulling her even more closer. She felt him bury his face in the side of her neck, her long silver hair brushing against his own wet tears. She couldn't help but be shocked. He was crying. She had only expected to see his cold gaze, his strong orders to leave him alone, but never had she imagined him becoming so emotional on seeing her and Nagato. It was then Nagato's words came back to her. He cares about you, Akino. More than you could ever imagine. A small smile came on her lips as her tears stopped. She was still extremely mad at him, but felt contented in holding him in her arms. It had just been 2 days since their separation, but for her it was as if years had passed. Just that attached she was to him and Nagato. Her happy moment didn't last when a light cough broke the silence. From the corner of her eye, she saw Conan giving them a curious gaze, making Akino grit her teeth, as she felt Naruto slowly break the hug, ending the warm sensation between them. She saw Naruto's guarded expression return as he cautiously observed the aim kunoichi. If you two are done snogging each other, there are much more important tasks to finish, said Conan bemusedly. Her tone, while being sarcastic, was not insulting, but it still made Akino give her a murderous glare which the aim girl blatantly ignored. Naruto awkwardly stared at Nagato for some help, but found his friend looking the other way, quietly whistling to himself. Bastard. Gathering his thoughts, he looked back at Conan with a serious gaze which made the girl drop her smile and adopt a similar look of her own. How did you find me? Asked Naruto neutrally. We were following your trail, although it was not as easy task I had imagined in the beginning. We received a distress call forwarded to us from headquarters indicating an imminent attack on this village. Finding you here was a surprise, admitted Conan frankly, and smirked when Naruto cursed silently. Damn my saving people thing, muttered Naruto silently, making Akino smile. The very next moment Naruto was grabbed firmly by his shoulders and came face to face with the furious Akino, who started shaking him like a rag doll, shouting at him continuously. Despite this, Naruto couldn't help but smile. Akino would be Akino no matter what, that was what he lo. He abruptly stopped himself. The bizarre thought that had passed his mind momentarily was enough to startle him. He looked at the beautiful girl shouting at him in the same concerned voice he had known for years. And for the first time he noticed something different. The way her cheeks flushed red as she vented at him, the way that annoying strand of silver hair fell over her face urging him to put it back, the way her soft lips. Stop. This is Akino, just stop, he berated himself internally. Even as he tried to stop these frustrating chain of thoughts, he couldn't deny the fact that he had missed her dearly. Even if they had just been apart for 2 days, he had missed Nagato as well, but not in the way he had missed her. He had longed for her smile, for her sarcastic remarks, for her admirable ability of listening to almost anything he had to say, and so much more. His hands betrayed him as they slowly started lifting up with the desire to touch her cheek in order to feel she was real and not an illusion. But they stopped midway as his actions with the cult and his plans came flooding back to him. Nagato had been watching his male best friend keenly, and couldn't help but sigh when Naruto's hands dropped back. Akino was so busy yelling at him that the girl completely missed the bizarre reaction from Naruto. It was almost. Darkness and light can't coexist together, Akino. One day you'll realize it too, thought Naruto with a resigned sigh. His internal battle with himself must have lasted longer than he had thought, as Akino had now stopped shouting and was now panting harshly in order to regain her breath. Did you even listen to a single thing I said? Asked Akino pointedly, her sharp gaze boring into his soul. Yes, he lied easily. What do you have to say in return? Asked Akino, ignoring his blatant lie. Nothing. Akino's nostrils flared at his careless answer, but before she could get back at him he simply brushed past her and went straight towards Conan. She remained standing in her spot, her eyes fixed on him as he offered Conan his hand, which the girl promptly shook. Uzumaki Naruto, I believe introductions were left unattended in our last encounter, said Naruto calmly, earning a nod from her. Conan, and likewise. It's quite interesting to meet someone with your talents, replied Conan coolly. She hadn't missed the boy's deliberate dismissal of his concerned female best friend. Granted, Akino could have been a little calmer, but Conan was not very impressed with Naruto's actions towards his own friend. The fact that he did it deliberately got on her nerves. I'd like you to take my friends back to the capital, said Naruto directly. First tell me what happened to the bandits, asked Conan pointedly. Oh, is that how it is? Well, then better for me, thought Naruto bemusedly, happy to agree with her belief of the attackers being mere bandits rather than a cult of immortal fighters. I chased them off, replied Naruto flatly. You didn't kill them? Asked Conan suspiciously. She may not have known him for long, but she doubted he was the type of ninja who took prisoners. And judging from the shocked look on his friends' faces proved her doubts. This boy never took prisoners, and yet he had simply chased off the attackers instead of killing them. I don't want to stain my hands with trash, said Naruto distastefully. To end this discussion, he gave Conan and his own friends challenging stares, daring them to oppose his testimony. And couldn't help but smirk when his friends relented and gave a small nod to Conan, making the girl sigh. Although, just one look in the AIM girl's eyes was enough to show she didn't believe him or his friends. I get the feeling you're not the type of person who'll follow an unknown boy for 2 days without a strong reason, suggested Naruto cryptically, earning another smirk from the girl. I don't know, maybe I was bored, shrugged Conan, making Nagato chuckle, which directly earned him a dark glare from Naruto. Get to the point, Conan, hissed Naruto. She paused. His voice was cold and fully conveyed his irritated feelings towards her. Yet it was also the first time she had heard him say her name, and it felt strange to say the least. She had a few guesses as to what this boy could be up to. Unlike his friend, she didn't believe he chased off the bandits. But for the moment, there were more important matters at hand, and he did save her people, so she could let it go just this once. Steeling herself and gathering every ounce of confidence and willpower in her heart, she looked the redhead boy straight in the eye. I have a proposal for you, Uzumaki Naruto. There was a curt knock at the door. With a heavy sigh, Kushina Uzumaki marched towards the entrance of her apartment. But when she opened the door, she was rooted to her spot. For there, standing in front of her, was the former love of her life, the father of her son, and the man who was once the center of her universe. It still startled her heart on seeing Minato look at her with the same compassionate and loving gaze today, even after everything that had happened between them. Can I come in? Asked Minato politely. Her initial shock wore off, and her gaze turned cold as she icily glared back at him. Minato was stunned as he realized from where his son gained the stone-cold gaze. No. He concealed the hurt and disappointment he felt on hearing her bitter answer. Every day it broke his heart to see her like this, to see her get further and further away from him. No matter what he did, no matter how much he tried. She saw him swallow heavily, as he rummaged through his pockets searching for something. After a few moments, he let out a small envelope and presented it to her. I don't want it, said Kushina flatly. Kushina. How many times do I have to tell you, it's over? You can stop pretending, snarled Kushina, and this time she didn't miss his heartbroken gaze, which made her stop. Damn his blue eyes. I know you can never forgive me. But before I leave, I wanted to give you this, said Minato hesitantly. Leave? Asked Kushina, a frown marring her beautiful face as a wistful smile arrived on his face. For war. She froze. The anger and bitterness vanished and was replaced by a sudden fear and anxiety. She searched his eyes for any signs of deception, but only found the truth. He was truly going to war. Obito is going as well. If Minato's departure was not enough, the last information crushed her. It was not right. Obi was so young and he didn't deserve the horrors of war. Nobody deserved that, not even Minato. She wanted to argue, but knew that almost every able ninja was being sent to war. Since she was the Jinchuriki, she had to remain behind for the protection of the village, and only in dire circumstances would she be sent to the battlefield. It was infuriating to watch all her loved ones take all these risks while she I know I haven't always lived up to your expectations, Kushina. But I've always wished the best for you, I still do. That's why I want you to take this, so that at least when I die. Kushina felt her heart constrict tightly in her chest on hearing those dreadful words, yet he simply smiled. I'll know that I at least kept our promise. She shut her eyes, unable to stop the tears from emerging in her eyes. The lump in her throat was so heavy, her heart had almost stopped as she remembered everything. I'll always love you, Kushina. Shakshi immediately opened her tearful eyes, unable to believe what he had just said. But all that was left was the soft breeze marking his departure, along with the lone tear that had fallen from Minato's own eye. Heartbroken, she shifted her gaze towards the envelope he had given her. She slowly opened the envelope and let out the contents, and it made her heart stop. Right in front of her were nearly a dozen photographs of her dear son. Kushina's trembling fingers brushed through the image of that small child, her child. To see even this artificial image of him gave her peace, it gave her a part of her son. Looking through all of them, she realized they were of Naruto at different ages, and with a few people his age. Possibly his classmates or teammates. It made her heart swell. That idiot! She couldn't believe it. The only way for Minato to even have such photographs of their little son would be if he watched their boy from afar, if only for a few minutes. It was impossible for her to leave Konoha without sending the entire village in a dire frenzy. The Hokage had placed a seal on her that constantly showed the old man about her whereabouts. And even in Yuzu, there were detection seals that would have detected Minato's presence. Yet the blonde-haired father had risked everything just to see their son, to see that he was safe. To watch him grow, if only for a few possible moments, before being forced to walk away. She felt her anger rise at him for keeping this secret for her. But deep down, she knew if he had revealed that he was secretly visiting Yuzu if only for a few minutes, then she would have demanded he let her accompany him. And that would have destroyed everything. And yet now, he had given her all these precious memories about their son. She felt a small wistful smile appear on her lips. Maybe the boy whom she had once loved still loved somewhere deep inside. It relieved her to see Minato's dedication and love for his son, and his own unending love towards her even till this day and after everything that had happened in their lives. Minato Namikaze, you crazy bastard, thought Kushina emotionally, clenching her fist close to her heart, while holding the photographs tightly in her other hand. But now if he had given this to her, risked showing his violation of the treaty between Yuzu and Konoha, it could only mean Minato didn't think he was coming back alive. And for the first time in years, Kushina couldn't imagine her life without Minato. She ran. Conan stared hard at the boy sitting in front of her. After they had made sure that the villagers of Han were safe, and healed those who were injured, she had decided to explain her proposal, and Naruto had been patient enough to agree with her request. She had to admit Akino was quite a talented medic and had demonstrated her skills by quickly healing even the gravest wounds. While Nagato was slowly setting up protection seals around the village and helping the rescue teams search the area for any further enemy forces. With him at the front, it was confirmed that Han would not be so easily attacked next time. Hanzo had been right. These Uzumaki, while being a wild bunch, were sure talented enough, and she could easily see how well their addition would be in a growing nation like AIM. So now here she stood in a small house of one of Han's residents, with possibly the strongest Uzumaki she had ever seen. She was intrigued on seeing his twinkling eyes staring back at her with mild amusement. Naruto Uzumaki was an asshole, there was no doubt about it in her mind. But there was also another side to the boy, one which he rarely showed to a selected few. Well, talk, commanded Naruto, finally losing his patience, making her smirk. You have interesting powers, lethal but useful. We could use a ninja of your talents, proposed Conan, making the boy frown as he stared back at her. I already said it clearly, I won't swear loyalty to any nation or leader. I am Yuzu's soldier, and will remain so till my last breath, said Naruto defiantly. Galatea was right. His pride is what sets him apart from others, but it is also his weakness, thought Conan secretly. Then let me rephrase it. We don't want you to become an AIM shinobi, nor swear loyalty to Hanzo or our nation. But you are loyal to your clan, and with a world war at our doorstep, AIM is just not prepared enough to face the dangers. That is why we need your services," explained Conan neutrally, and was relieved when his frown disappeared and he raised an eyebrow in curiosity. "A mercenary? What makes you think I'm a thug for hire?" mocked Naruto, an amused smile arriving on his face. Even the bastard's eyes twinkled a little as he stared back at her. Conan took a deep breath. He was a difficult person to deal with, but she would not fail. No matter what. Not as a mercenary, but as a protector of the Uzumaki clan. You have seen our shinobi and their skill level. Despite the talents of your friends, AIM does not have the numbers or skills to oppose any of the Great Five from attacking our lands, or using AIM as their battlefield. If that happens, either my people or your friends and the Uzumaki children can live peacefully, so I want you to be a guardian. Conan knew right there she had struck his heart. She could see it. His previous mocking smile disappeared. His bemused gaze turned to one that was extremely gentle and full of affection as he thought about his people. Conan couldn't help but smile. No matter how much of an asshole he was, she couldn't deny the fact that perhaps there was no one else in this world who cared more about the Uzumaki than this boy. His loyalty and faith in his own beliefs made him admirable for her. His skills were just another added bonus. We don't need your loyalty, or for you to become our ninja. You are free to go wherever you like and do whatever you want as long as it doesn't harm AIM or its people. But I'm sure you won't do any such thing now that the Uzumaki are our people are as well, said Conan softly. He looked at her with mild surprise as she called the Uzumaki her own people. She herself was no more surprised than him, and it showed in her eyes. She was quite stunned when he relaxed in his chair and gave her a patient smile, which made her heart churn with an emotion she couldn't identify. What do you want exactly? Asked Naruto silently. He's not an unreasonable person, it seems. Just a little stubborn, thought Conan happily. Hanzo-sama is forming a special group of ninjas. These men and women will play a vital role in protecting AIM from all external strikes from any ninja village, even the Great Five. It's an elite group that will work in small teams. Akino and Nagato have already agreed to be a part of it, explained Conan enthusiastically, and saw him nodding approvingly of his friend's choices. Are you a member as well? Asked Naruto. Yes, she replied proudly. He remained silent for the next few minutes, making her a little nervous and anxious. She had placed her cards in front of him, but it was quite difficult to predict Naruto Uzumaki. So you want my services till this war ends? Asked Naruto after a pause. Yes, we'll notify you when there is a mission. Until then, you are free to stay with us or do your own tasks. You will be a member of the Uzumaki clan, and not an AIM shinobi. We will also provide you a handsome compensation for your services, along with a house to stay in AIM and cover all your expenses until you are a part of this group, offered Conan enthusiastically. She took a breath to regain her composure. Her excitement for this new group of ninjas made her explain the details quickly and proudly. While it was good, she needed to be patient and precise to explain the main part. And we can help you learn how to control your dark power. What? Hissed Naruto, making her flinch on seeing the ferocity return in those eyes. It seemed he was as cautious about his powers as those around him. Galatea, my teacher has a unique set of skills that allows her to manipulate another person's chakra. I also have that talent. That was why you weren't able to hit me so easily with your dark attacks. You didn't miss your target, rather I made your attacks miss me, said Conan frankly. I don't believe you, said Naruto flatly, it was simply impossible. While there were many kind of shinobi with unique Kekai Genkai, he had hardly come across or even heard of any ninja having the power to control, or even manipulate another ninja's chakra. Conan was looking at him challengingly, so he instantly charged a small amount of his dark power. A small dark-colored ball made up of dark chakra formed in his hand. It was energy manipulation at its finest due to his nearly perfect chakra control. Without hesitation, he threw it straight at the now smirking girl. He nearly panicked when Conan remained seated in her chair and allowed the attack to reach merely 2 inches away from her face. Then suddenly the dark ball of chakra simply passed from her side without even touching her at all. Before Naruto could relax, she sent the attack right back at him, making his eyes go wide. He brought his hand forward to defend himself, but she simply stopped the ball of chakra and Naruto quickly reconsumed that energy. Proof enough? Asked Conan with a smirk. He just stared at her dumbly. Now he understood how she was able to match him, how she was able to control those thousands of paper attacks, and even fly with her paper wings. Till this date, only the Tsuchikage, who was a great warrior, had mastered the ability to fly. And here was this girl able to complete the same feat at such a young age. "You're talented," said Naruto respectfully, as she playfully rolled her eyes at him. "Thank you, Captain Obvious," said Conan cheerfully, and somehow it made him smile a little. "Look, I understand that you have your own plans and are a proud Uzumaki. But we need your help, and we won't stop you from pursuing your dreams and even help you as far as possible. Hanzo-sama respects you, and if you agree to this proposal, then you can visit your friends, your clan, even stay with them whenever you want," said Conan genuinely, as he raised an eyebrow. "Or I can just sneak in and meet them," challenged Naruto. "Yeah, and get them in legal trouble for allowing a non-citizen ninja to roam around our lands knowingly?" asked Conan, making him lose his smile instantly. "I see. What shall it be, Naruto?" He became silent. The offer was quite fair, to say the least. He knew despite Conan's carefully chosen words he would be indirectly protecting AIM from other villages, but as long as it led to the protection of his friends he wouldn't mind. And he was the one who had ignited war between Konoha and Suna, and couldn't bear to live if those two great villages chose AIM as their battlefield or attacked this small nation for no good reason. He also needed time to set up the Akatsuki. It was his own personal group which he would use to bring forth a revolution in this world. But it would take time, and he simply had nowhere else to go. He would rather die than spend any more time with the cult members than necessary. Their foul souls made him want to kill them, but he would use them first before ending their miserable existence. Plus, he could help Nagato and ward off AIM from the rest of the world with their knowledge in sealing and barriers. And most of all, he would be able to spend just a little more time with his friends. With Akino, with Nagato, with the Uzumaki children. He didn't know why, but that thought brought peace to his troubled heart. The fact that he was free to sneak out of AIM for his other missions was a much-needed bonus. Plus, he could use AIM as his secret hideout without putting his friends in trouble, not to mention the resources he would receive along with Hanzo's trust. His gaze shifted towards Conan, who was smiling at him. The girl was strange and intrigued him. The fact that she could match his powers to a certain degree was threatening and peaceful at the same time. His worst fear was of losing control of his dark powers and doing something he would regret later, but if she could help him control it. It was nearly impossible, and he didn't have much hope, but if somehow he gained control over his powers with Conan and Galatea's help. And when this storm of war passed, when he was sure his friends were safe, when AIM was completely protected, he could leave in peace. Conan couldn't help but stare tentatively when he took a deep breath and closed his eyes, and a smile broke across her beautiful face when he nodded in acceptance while asking something. "What is this group called?" asked Naruto curiously, and the grin on the girl's face was so infectious that it made him relax a little. Domino Squad. Chapter 15. When a Stranger Calls. A lazy yawn escaped from a young boy's mouth as he heard the soft yet consistent knocks on his doorstep. As he crept out of his bed, he felt the first wave of cold air hit his almost naked body. The very first thing that came to his mind was the fact that he hated AIM, hated the weather, and most of all hated the never-ending rains. He had thought about it a lot, and as hard as it was to admit, he couldn't deny the fact that even an oppressive power like Fire Nation and even his dear Yuza had 1,000 times better a climate than the poverty-stricken Amigakure. It was harsh, but to be honest, he felt no loyalty towards this nation or its people. He was doing this job to protect his friends and clan, while accomplishing a few secret agendas of his own. After that he was done. And Kami help him if he had to stay here for more than a few weeks. It was with such thoughts that a grumpy Naruto Uzumaki roughly opened the door of his room. It was just going to be another one of the annoying servants Hanzo had provided. And if the old man didn't think that Naruto knew exactly what game he was playing, then the leader of AIM was in for quite a surprise. Regardless, the tables turned when instead of finding another nameless servant he found Conan at his door. The Angel, a ridiculous name to call someone. Conan arched one of her eyebrows as she stared at him. Naruto looked down and found that he was dressed in just his boxers, not that he cared much. Like what you see? Asked Naruto casually. She simply shrugged her shoulders. I've seen better. She had to fight hard to hide her smirk on seeing his eyebrows twitch, if only a little. It had been 2 days since they brought Naruto back to the capital, and ever since the boy had asked to be left alone for a while. A request which Hanzo had agreed to until now. I have been asked to give you a tour of the capital, said Conan frankly, and was not surprised when he sighed. I'll pass, replied Naruto defiantly. This girl was interesting but quite dangerous. And he had already seen proof enough of that, not to mention he felt quite uneasy when she looked at him. It was as if she could see clean through his lies sometimes, and that freaked him out. And the most dangerous thing about her was that unlike Akino, Conan simply didn't fucking care. She didn't push and simply let himself be, that was as long as he didn't get in her way or did something that was a threat to her nation. Proof of this habit were her next words. Suit yourself. I'll inform Hanzo that you are not feeling well, like the last 2 days, she said, not a single annoyed or angry emotion visible in her stoic gaze. Without another word or suggestion, Conan turned and started walking away. Where are my friends? Asked Naruto curiously, making her stop, but she didn't turn back around to face him. Akino is helping the older children of your clan find new accommodations. She's also very busy scanning through the list of decent families who have applied to adopt many of your younger clan children. Hanzo-sama has given her full authority to decide whether any of the families are suitable for this task or not. Explained Conan, and from the corner of her eyes she clearly saw him frown. I don't trust your people, even the civilians. Not yet, he admitted, earning a nod from her. Understandable. But the young children need a home and a stable environment to grow, which only a family can provide. It is either that or the orphanage, and trust me, you don't want that option, said Conan bluntly, and he didn't miss the bitterness in her voice. There was a silence in the long corridor as for that brief second his eyes connected with her own. And he knew. You were an orphan, weren't you? Asked Naruto silently. His voice either carried pity or kindness. Being in a similar situation like her throughout his life had made him learn that he hated people who pitted him for how his life turned out. Life was shitty, there was no other way around. You either accept it and try to make it better, or keep on crying trying to garner people's pity. Looking into her eyes made him understand just a little as to who Conan was among the two options. Yes, said Conan flatly. You rose pretty high. Must have been quite a journey, he said honestly, and he saw a small smile grace her lips. It made her look quite beautiful. I could say the same about you, she replied, looking him in the eye. A small breath escaped from his lips, a wry thought passed through his mind, and he looked back at her to find her waiting. How about having some coffee? Asked Naruto, making her look at him curiously. Coffee? So early in the morning? Said Conan amusedly, but he merely shrugged as a small grin arrived on his lips. Maybe I'll be a little less grumpy after having some coffee in my veins, replied Naruto causally. She snorted. Fine, but I warn you it won't come cheap, said Conan directly. Whatever you say. After all you're buying. With a mischievous wink, he slammed the door shut. Conan remained rooted in her spot, quite a surprised expression clearly visible on her face on seeing his bluntness. The boy had guts, she had to give him that. But a complete asshole at the same time. Even so, she couldn't help but allow a small chuckle to escape her lips. Naruto casually walked through the streets of Aim's capital, his trained eyes taking in everything around him. Right from the perfect drainage lines on the sidewalks that effectively carried all the constant rainfall, otherwise the people would forever be drowned in floods. The gigantic towers around him in which people used to live, they were the tallest in the world. A proof of Aim's rising industrialization and technology. The other great nations had resources but not the technology. If he could only place Aim at the top within a few years and his clansmen in charge of this nation, he wouldn't need to recreate Yuzu from scratch, since he would help his clan in taking over Aim. It would not be easy with Hanzo and the samurai at the helm, or with ninjas like Conan and Galatea guarding this small nation. But if he could somehow show Nagato as a leader to the people of AIM, then the military won't have any choice but to nominate his friend as the next leader. Nagato was powerful and only needed the right push. One which Naruto would gladly give. He shivered when a torrent of rainfall washed over him. Looking at his side, he saw Conan smirk at him. She was completely dry, courtesy of her chakra manipulation which she had been using to keep both of them from getting drenched in the unending rainfall. That was until he drifted off into his own world, completely ignoring her for some time. A point she made quite clear by making him soak in the rainfall. "Earth calling?" asked Conan amusedly, as he shot her a nasty glare. "You! Since I'm the one buying you coffee and giving you the tour, I expect to be listened to," she said, a hint of authority present in her voice. "Is that so?" asked Naruto, a grin arriving on his lips as he flicked his fingers. He quickly leapt out of the way as the idle water on the streets rose from all sides and rained down on a surprised Conan. By the time it was over, Conan was drenched from head to toe. The bystanders had a variety of emotions ranging from amusement, annoyed, to downright angry glares on their faces on seeing their beloved angel being drenched like that. Naruto couldn't help but chuckle out loud as he saw the look on her face. A tense moment followed as she looked at him laughing. And somehow that laugh made her break out a smile, which soon broke into a happy laugh on her own. The civilians and shinobi around relaxed, some even broke out happy smiles on seeing their angel laugh so happily. The moment only became much more sweet for many of the women, when they saw the red-haired boy grab an umbrella and step beside Conan. The rain falling over the girl stopped, and she looked up to see a dark umbrella protecting her from the rains. She looked to her side, to see Naruto holding the umbrella with a slight apologetic smile on his face. "Sorry for getting you wet," whispered Naruto, as her cheeks flushed a little on his choice of words. "Shameless," replied Conan, without any kind of annoyance in her voice. And did Naruto detect a hint of approval in her voice? "I try my best. Now I think we should move, we've given enough a show to the people," suggested Naruto, as she gave him a challenging look. "Oh, you scared?" whispered Conan, and saw him glance at her curiously. "Didn't know you were an exhibitionist," teased Naruto. He tensed when she stepped closer, enough to have her lips be a mere inch away from his. He felt his heart beat a little faster as their combined body heats offered the only protection against the cold weather of AIM. The look in her eyes made the world around him melt away, and he found himself dissolving in those dazzling orbs of her. "I am lot of things, Uzumaki Naruto." He must have been in quite a trance, as only when the cold rainfall hit his body again did he realize she had walked ahead, along with his umbrella. Seeing her smile back at him triumphantly made him feel something strange in his chest. Being drenched in the rains didn't affect him a bit as he continued to stare into her eyes. And only when did he catch a glimpse of the large crowd that had gathered to watch them did he manage to break this strange moment between him and Conan. He had to fight hard to hide his blush when he saw so many women glance at him adorably, while a few of the younger men were glaring at him. Shaking his head, he ran after her knowing only one thing. AIM was driving him crazy. Both of them took their seats in a relatively well-known cafe in the capital. Naruto was actually surprised to find an automated machine at the entrance that helped dry the people. They called it dryer or something. Sure, ninjas could get themselves dry easily, but for the civilians living under constant rainfall this device would be like a blessing. He couldn't help but think about some interesting ideas that formed in his mind. If not anything else, AIM had the technology and manpower to bring about a new revolution. But that would come later, for now he had to have some coffee. As he drank from the mug, he discovered one of the new things he liked about AIM. Apart from their growing industrialization and technology. "Like it?" asked Conan, a smirk easily seen on her lips. "It'll do," replied Naruto neutrally, getting a nod from her as she drank her own hot tea. "So, when are we starting this special group you talked about?" asked Naruto seriously. It won't be long before he received new development information from his minions and maybe from Kisame. He had to micromanage 2 factions, and that required proper planning and organizing. "By the end of this week. It takes time to skim through the list of potential recruits. gather the resources and establish the command structure, stated Conan flatly. Fair enough. Hopefully, the ninjas would have prior training and mission experiences. Otherwise, our missions would only be more difficult if we are forced to carry young rookies, clarified Naruto, which made her sigh. I understand your point. But AIM only has a limited military force, and the few who are powerful have been assigned various important tasks. We'll try to get the best, but you'll just have to work with who's available, answered Conan, and saw him sigh, but he did give her an acknowledging nod. What kind of training have you gone through so far? Since you are working with us, we'll need to know your skill set and past experience, she added. To her credit, she never flinched as his gaze hardened and he searched her eyes for any sign of treachery or ulterior motives of any kind. The moment lasted for quite some time, and only when he was satisfied did he lean back a little, much to her relief. Espionage, assassinations, infiltration, tracking, interrogation, he answered, no emotion in his voice. You seem too young for many of these tasks. But after seeing what you did during our first battle, making sure your people survived in enemy territory for months, I believe you have been trained from early age. Possibly to be inducted into some special forces program Yuzu must have or was creating, suggested Conan, surprising him a little. She was quite sharp. Yes. I was planned to be recruited in the special forces once my training was over, the rest you know, he answered, some bitterness seeping into his words which made her nod. Your friends say you never take prisoners during a mission? Is that true? Asked Conan curiously. Unless I'm ordered to or the target has incredible value, no. There is no point in spending resources and manpower after someone who would slice your neck the very first chance they get, he admitted frankly. I'll take your word for it. Hopefully, you'll be complacent enough to take prisoners if AIM or the mission demands for it, hinted Conan, eyeing him quite seriously. I may not be loyal to this nation, but I respect a contract. And I would not to do anything that may harm my friends and clan. I'm sure you must have considered that before you offered me this deal, said Naruto slyly. We did, she confessed. There was a long silence between them as each of them sipped their coffee and tea respectively, possibly going over what they had just revealed to each other. Tell me about yourself, said Naruto, looking at her directly. Nothing special. I was an orphan. My parents were ninjas who died during the previous war. No siblings or family, spent most of my life in the orphanage until Hanzo noticed me and recruited me into his service, replied Conan, and he didn't miss the hint of pride in her voice. He must have seen something special in you to do such a thing personally. He doesn't seem like the type of man who'll go for anything but the best, suggested Naruto, making her smile. I can see why Hanzo-sama took an interest in you. Uzumaki Naruto, you remind him of himself in his younger days. Smart, powerful, loyal, and a ninja with a vision for change. This may not be your nation, we may not be your people, but know this, that Salamander Hanzo sees something special in you. Don't let it go to waste, advised Conan, as he arched one of his eyebrows in surprise. I'll keep that in mind. Even so, you seem more than loyal to Hanzo. You care about him like family, suggested Naruto, as she blinked before a smile broke out on her lips as she thought about the man who changed her life for the better. Yes. Her instincts went to alert mode when she saw him gaze intently into the entrance area of the shop. Someone or something had caught his attention completely. It seems AIM has started to be infested by rats, whispered Naruto, a dangerous glint in his eyes. Conan's eyes widened as she recognized the term used for an enemy spy. She tried to move towards a better position in order to locate the target, only to feel a firm grip on her hand by Naruto himself. You'll spook her. Let her gather the information she seeks from that over-talkative waitress. I get the feeling this woman is not alone, said Naruto icily. How do you know she's a spy? Asked Conan silently. I can feel her fear, her anxiety, and that gives me the power to catch a glimpse of her mind. I can fully infiltrate her mind, but that will simply alert her remaining comrades who can be nearby. So I'm just brushing the edges of her mind with my dark powers. It seems Iwagakure is almost ready for a new offensive, said Naruto coldly. You're not bluffing about this, are you? asked Conan hesitantly, and saw the same cold gaze she had seen during their first battle. The look in his eyes sent a shiver down her spine. It was merciless and promised only one thing: pain. From the corner of his eyes, Naruto saw the short, dark-haired woman leave her seat and get out of the shop. His gaze swept over Conan, who was rooted in her spot. "You know what to do." It was all he said before disappearing in a cloud of black smoke that easily seeped out of the window near them. Conan only had a moment to steel herself, before she also disappeared in a swirl of paper petals. Conan learned one thing. Uzumaki Naruto was a cunning predator. It had taken her several minutes to follow his trail in pursuit of this potential spy he was sure of. There were times when she nearly lost both their tails, but managed to gain it after a few more minutes of searching. It must have costed her a lot of time, as by the time she reached him, it was all over. Naruto lay standing in one of the dark alleys surrounding a worn-out house. It was one of the poorest districts in the capital, one where the worst kind of people lived. An easy place for spies and murderers to disappear into. But this time, luck ran out for them. A small wave of dark chakra was radiating off his body, protecting him from the rains falling from the sky. In front of him lay three humans who were shivering. A woman whom Conan recognized must have been the spy he was talking about, a middle-aged man and a young boy who was of their age. I must admit, it was quite a sound strategy to send an entire team of spies pretending as another poor family. "IWA is not as dumb as I imagined," said Naruto, a cold smile arriving on his lips. "Please, we are just poor people. We don't have anything," pleaded the woman desperately, tears falling from her eyes. Conan felt bad for her. Maybe they were mistaken. And how could she take his word that they were spies when there was no proof at all? Just Naruto and his crazy theory. And these were her countrymen. She owed them more loyalty than whatever existed between her and Naruto. They were at best acquaintances, with future of working as teammates. And maybe friends someday. Dark mass of chakra surrounded the middle-aged man and started lifting him high in the air. The woman started screaming. The young boy who must be their son tried to attack Naruto only to be trampled over, and now his head rested beneath Naruto's feet, ready to be crushed at any moment. "I can get the truth out of you easily. But that won't serve the purpose. Admit your crime and face Aim's justice. Or deal with me," said Naruto murderously. "That's enough, Naruto," barked Conan. She had just taken 2 steps towards him when his glare made her stop. "Please, we're innocent. We don't know anything," begged the woman, and bowed her head in front of Naruto. Yet his merciless gaze never wavered. His eyes met with the struggling middle-aged man who was desperately trying to breathe, as Naruto's dark chakra tendrils kept him suspended in the air. The young boy beneath his feet had long since stopped resisting, and was now staring at the scene worriedly. Sometimes you must hurt others to know the truth, fall in order to grow, lose in order to gain, and learn the greatest teachings through pain. Conan stared in horror as he crushed the young boy's skull with his feet, splashing the brains all over the wet ground. The dark tendrils holding the middle-aged man pierced him from various sides, making a shower of blood and guts rain down on the woman. Never in her life had Conan seen something so horrific and barbaric. The woman gave out a blood-curdling scream that must have echoed through half of Aim on watching her husband and son die so brutally. Yet Naruto never flinched, never hesitated, nor was he moved by the atrocity he had committed. Whatever doubts Conan had about his training and as to what he had done, or could do, were removed when the woman started sputtering out the truth. Conan was shocked when the woman actually admitted that she and the older man, as well as the now dead young boy, were all spies from IWA. They were sent in to get battle plans about the forces Aim had deployed towards Iwa's borders, in possible hopes of creating an invasion and destroying Aim forever. By the time the woman gave the entire truth, she was badly shivering. A clearly terrorized look was seen in her eyes as she stared into Naruto's gaze. "She may still be more useful in providing more information," said Conan quickly, when she saw he was about to end the woman's life as well. Naruto looked Conan straight in the eye. "Is that an order?" he asked coldly. Conan nodded. He may be more powerful and more dangerous than her, but it didn't change the fact that she was a jounin. While Naruto was just hired by her village, it may have been too late to save the other two spies for getting further information, but Hanzo-sama could surely get more information out of this whimpering woman in front of them. Conan saw him give an irritated snarl as he was forced to accept her decision. This was her nation, and she had the authority to make decisions, not him. And it clearly frustrated him. "It's your lucky day, woman," spat Naruto, and shot Conan a disapproving glare before vanishing from the area in a mass of dark smoke. As soon as he was gone, Conan saw the enemy female spy fall unconscious and end up on the ground full of blood and flesh. She groaned. If this was what meant working with Naruto Uzumaki, then it was confirmed that he would drive her crazy with his antics in a few years. If not months. Still, she couldn't deny the fact that he was a deadly ninja. He was sharp, attentive, and had useful powers that allowed him to adapt to the situations far more quickly than others. She was yet to see his assassination skills, but he had already displayed the remaining of his skills by not only identifying a spy, tracking down an entire ring, and even getting information at a steep cost. Conan now understood why Hanzo was so interested in this boy. For Naruto Uzumaki was a deadly killing machine, about to be unleashed in a new war,